in Paris, France, every year there was a banquet that was hosted where deaf orators. This was a deaf man to whom we owe a great deal of gratitude. There are some disputes about his actual name sign, but he established the Parisian banquets because they emerged in the 1830s. And so these banquets would invite distinguished hearing orators as well. This says it all. There was a great deal of pride at that time. Not arrogance. I don't believe that this is an arrogant statement. This is the belief that international communication among deaf people carries across boundaries. Those in Europe would need to join together by traveling great distances in horse and carriage or by boat, and they would come together and they would invite people of varying nations, and they would decide who discussions at these banquets that I've included in my book, but I don't have time to discuss here. Now, if we talk about deafhood in general, I have identified 7 principles that are important to discuss related to speech. And I believe that they're special because they can be adapted for global communication. Sign language can transcend speech. And deaf people are probably the truly global citizens and are a model for society. As science and technology have become more and more respected, those who are considered connected with nature are looked down upon. And very often deaf people have been identified as people of nature. And we need to develop a movement similar to that of the Green Movement, where we and nature as something that we want to be connected with instead of science. Okay. Now, here's the cover of a book by Pierre and then reprinted. Oh, I'm going to make you really wish you could read this. Clerc. Oh, Claire invited Monsieur to speak at a meeting of philosophers and writers, and someone documented there. So, the 5th principle of deafhood is that sign languages are offered as a gift to hearing people. Yeah, as we saw in the past, that now 7 is also very important because people are equal and that they're not treated equally, and those who are poor are not treated equally. But we need to make people aware that we need to fight for all people of all nations. I know that I have to rush and get this out to you more quickly, but colonization by the majority culture, I tend not to want to say the hearing culture, but the majority culture has colonized us from the inside out and have really transformed us. So we need to ask questions about what we've learned about this process. We tend to criticize rather than offer praise. And we think that that is the way to go. You know, we were raised being criticized as we grew older, and we felt that we were wrong at every turn, and we were told our speech was wrong, our use of sign language was wrong, our writing was wrong, so we learned the way to be critical. Also, I'm sure you've heard of the crab theory. In Australia, there's a different term for this. I think they're called toll puppies. But at any rate, the crab theory is where, like, if a person is hard of hearing, you know, and they do well and they grow up in an oral school, they're used as a symbol or an example to show those of us who don't use our speech or who sign that we are inferior and we should be ashamed. We also learn to distrust hearing people. You know, gosh, we pay you to abuse us. We pay you to teach us the wrong things. We pay you to tell us that we're inferior or bad. I'm here. And I've learned sign language. We need to grow out and come out of our shells and show the culture that we have inside of it. Okay, deaf theater. To us, but not bringing our culture to the majority. I believe that all deaf people need to be represented in 50% of the programming. Well, no, not 50%, 5%. Every hour of every day, one should be able to find a channel where there's something on TV that shows the contributions of deaf people. Yeah, and I'm not talking about putting an interpreter out on the stage. I'm talking about deaf people interacting and spreading their own information. Now, closed captioning is a big thing here in the U.S. And it's not as big in England, but so I have a few examples here. There are patterns that need to be broken, and some of those are listed here. Deaf culture now is making headway, but it's incorporated a number of negative issues within its structure. There are positive and negative stereotypes that exist within deaf culture. We don't know what life was in the past. We don't know what it will look like in the future, but I'm proposing that we start using the term deafhood in order to show how deaf culture is succeeding and modifying itself to bring out the positive contributions of deaf. But so we have deafhood, and at the heart of that is the international spirit. Remember, as I talked about the French banquet, those who were involved felt a great deal of pride in themselves and in their community. Now, when I go to a conference now, I fly out there, and there are a number of deaf people communicating. But some people stay in their own little cocoons. They don't reach out and communicate. What we need to do is reach out and express ourselves from a visual place and learn how to interact and share information. And then we're in a better